Hello and welcome to another episode of Composer Notes with me, Michael Colton, indie classical composer. This episode's going to be a little bit longer than normal because we are going to address the big question that affects every pro audio engineer professional across the planet at some time in their life. Mac versus PC. Some of you will know that I am an Apple fanboy. Along with my MacBook Pro, I've owned 4 iPhones, 3 iPads, 2 Apple TVs and 1 Apple Watch. And I've convinced my wife and children to have iPhones and iPads. Over the years, I've used many Windows-based PCs for music production, but changed to Apple about 10 years ago. This change transformed my personal studio experience from one of technical exploration to one of creative flow. And over the years I've sat and watched social media arguments over which is best for music, Mac or PC. These arguments have been passionate on both sides, often insulting and derogatory, with not much reasoned argument, to be honest. For me it was a bit of a moot point, as I was happy with my Mac and I am not about to change. So I thought. I've been using a Mac Pro for music production since 2012. It was reliable and stable and did everything I needed it to do. Whilst I was fast outgrowing it, my business plan included a Mac upgrade in early 2022. That was until 2 weeks ago when the unthinkable happened. It died. The logic board is fried, it is not repairable. Fortunately, I've always backed up my data. This presented me with a dilemma. After assessing my options, the only viable choice was to buy another studio computer. Repair was not going to be cost effective. Before I explain my search for a new pro audio computer, I should explain what I was looking for. My business plan is to expand my 2 music ventures, Black Lab Music, which produces and composes music, provides record label services and a recording facility, and my solo artist career that you know, which is my indie classical composer. The plan for 18 months' time was be able to run large virtual instrument templates, be able to cope with complex mixing and mastering it in the box, which means the need to run a lot of plugins. To have a lot of super fast storage, between 2 and 4 terabytes, needed it to be super quiet to be able to get at my existing data. Fortunately, as you know, I'm a Studio One user which runs on Mac and PC. It also needed to be upgradable but last for at least 4 years in its current state. But it needed to be stable, reliable and come with IT support. All of this translates to a high processor count, 10 or more, at least 64 gigs of RAM, preferably 128, M2 or SSD storage. Don't need monitors or keyboards, I have all of these already. So like a good Apple fanboy, off I went to the Apple website. Now the current range of Macs is interesting. Mac Mini, MacBook Pro, iMac, iMac Pro, or if you can sell a kidney, the Mac Pro. One thing that they all have in common is that you can't upgrade them over time, other than the Mac Pro. And now I recognise that if you have a degree in rocket science, then you can change the RAM on the Mac Mini. Yes, I've seen the videos and I decided that I was a musician, not a scientist. This means that what you buy, you are stuck with. So, starting at the Mac Pro, I needed approximately £10,000 to spec a machine to meet my criteria. At that point, my wife took control of the credit card. Working my way down the price list, the iMacs were discounted as they're not upgradable and I didn't need to have a screen. Also, it wouldn't fit in my studio without a major rebuild, and even after that, it wouldn't be in the right position to be really ergonomic. I considered the MacBook Pros, I'm using one already, but they would fit seamlessly into my studio and were very powerful. But they were still less than 10 cores, 8 is currently the max, with a maximum of 64 gig of memory. This would be somewhere towards £4,000 with a small SSD. Didn't hit the spot. I know I would need more RAM in the future, plus I'm going to need more cores in the future as well. Next was the Mac Mini. 6 core, small SSD, not upgradable. Failed to meet the criteria. But I seriously considered it as a temporary solution to get me through the next 2 years when I could get a new machine. But £2,500 seemed a lot for an under-power temporary solution. So, what's left? A used Mac Pro trash can. Lots of my pro audio friends are using these. They sell for about £2,500 to £3,000 second hand. But this is a 7-year-old spec machine. My MacBook was 8 years old when it died. I just didn't feel comfortable spending that much on something that could die at any moment. I consider the older MacBook Pros, but there's a lot of horror stories about keyboards and heating issues that again didn't justify the £2,000 plus price tag when there's no warranty and no backup. After about 4 days of sleepless nights, pacing and my wife telling me that it'll be okay, I finally plucked up the courage to do what I'd never thought I would do: start looking at Windows PCs. Now, I've read many horror stories on social media about Windows PCs and Pro Audio, and these came to mind like a migraine, but I also know that social media is full of the vocal minority, so with my logical head on, I started to do research. Proper research, facts, the real info, not just social media hysteria or marketing hype. Fortunately, I have a friend who runs the Expert blogs. That's Pro Tools Expert, etc. Hi Russ. He has amassed some of the best industry experts to provide advice and guidance to mere mortals like you and me. Over the last year, they've run various articles about moving from Mac to PC. After a lot of genuine, non-social media research, I found that a lot of Pro Audio professionals are doing just that. Why? Because like me, they need Mac Pro power without the Mac Pro price tag. One columnist in particular has documented their experience, Dan Cooper, and I'll stick a link in the bio below. This is a man who does Pro Audio for a living, well respected in the Pro Audio community, and his view is not easily dismissed. Another is James Ivey. He's running a Pro Tools PC. He has the same credentials as Dan, not easily dismissed. The more and more I researched, the more I found that Pro Audio professionals, recording studios and production houses are using PCs, contrary to perception. After researching Dan Cooper's spec and requirements of his computer that were very similar to mine, I then researched more and more about individual components that he'd spec to understand why he chose what he did. I then spoke to various Pro Audio PC manufacturers. I picked their brains about why they use certain components, how reliable their machines are, how they test them, what support they offer Pro Audio people like me. I then contacted their previous customers and asked them about their experience. Were they happy with their Windows PC Pro Audio experience? The answer came back, yes they were. This was an extensive process, but I wanted the facts and to cut through the social media or marketing hype. Through it all, I found that I didn't need to spend £10,000 to get Mac Pro power. In fact, I could probably spend less than £2,000. Right, cue another 4 days of pacing, sleepless nights, and my wife providing reassurances that she would still love me if I was no longer an Apple Mac user. My kids said they would stand by me. This seemed to be like a bigger decision than deciding whether to have kids or not, if ever that is a conscious decision. For 4 days, I knew in my heart what I needed to do, but I didn't have the confidence or the courage to do it. Seriously. Then, one evening, like a wolf taking himself away from the pack to die, I went to a quiet part of the garden with my iPad and my iPhone and my Apple Watch and a large whiskey, and then I did it. I bought a PC. Not just any PC, mind, a custom-built Pro Audio PC from scan.co.uk. This happens to match the same spec that Dan Cooper bought, plus a few extras. Scan were able to hit all of the criteria around support and specialist Pro Audio knowledge. They will set up the machine for me for Pro Audio use and provide 3 years of technical support. But this is the whole point of this article. Why did this Apple fanboy buy a PC? It was simple. Apple priced themselves out of my business. They no longer make an affordable machine that meets my criteria. Don't get me wrong, if I had £10,000 kicking around to spend on a computer, I would have bought the Mac Pro in an instant. But I don't, and I can't foresee a time that I'll ever have that sort of money to spend on a computer. In fact, I can't see a time when 99% of the Pro Audio professionals will ever have that sort of money to spend on a computer. Which is why so many Pro Audio professionals are moving to PCs. Now, by cutting through all the hype and social media slagging matches, I managed to find sensible, legitimate argument for which is better, Mac or PC. In short, that depends on what you want the machine to do and how much you are prepared to spend to get it. My advice is simply this: if you're in the market for a new computer, work out what you need that computer to do before you buy one and how much you are prepared to spend to get it. You may be surprised with what you end up buying. For those that are interested, here are the specs of my new computer, which I bought for the same price as a mid-spec Mac Mini with an Intel i7 8th generation, 6 cores, 32GB RAM, 512GB SSD. I got an Intel i9 14-core, 28-thread, 10th generation processor, an Asus X299 motherboard, 64GB of RAM, upgradable to 256 by me, a 512GB M2 program drive, 1TB M2 sample drive, 2TB SSD, Thunderbolt card, Firewire card, Sapphire RX Pulse 8GB video card. So that is why this Apple fanboy bought a PC, and that was my journey. It was tough, it was emotional, it's a roller coaster. I'm really excited about the move to a PC. I think it is going to change what I do. The processing power is going to be absolutely awesome, but it was a tough decision, and I encourage you to do the tough thinking and the research for yourself. Do not listen to social media. Do not listen to the arguments and the rhetoric that you find on social media. Contact customers, find out their experience. You might be pleasantly surprised. I'll keep updating you about what's happening and my Windows PC experience, but in the meantime, please go to my website, www.michaelcolton.com. Have a listen to the music. Obviously, the new album is slightly delayed whilst I am now updating the computer and bringing all of my projects back to life, but I promise to have new music out to you as soon as possible. Look forward to speaking to you soon. Bye-bye.